Holly Sullivan.
Thank you. Thank you, chairs and distinguished members of the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee. My name is Holly Sullivan. I'm the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. I am here on behalf of not only the 35,000 members of CCDL, but the 270,000 law-abiding gun owners in the state of Connecticut. We adamantly oppose HB5040, and I apologize for a little bit of this time of year. I'm a little bit hoarse. This proposed tax is a direct penalty to individuals who are not responsible for the actions of others. However, the misguided scheme of this bill is far more dangerous than just that and will have contrary impact to what it claims it will do. While this proposed bill may feel like it is, quote, doing something, it is directly conflicting with actual common sense gun safety measures. Accurate shooting is a skill. It requires practice. Safe handling skills and proficiencies are developed at the gun range. Gun owners will often put hundreds of rounds in a day through their firearms, developing the muscle memory that is necessary that should they be in a stressful situation, they are able to respond accordingly. This proposed bill will be cost prohibitive, but only for some. I'm going to go a little off script and comment on what the testimony of the woman ahead of me, Reverend Ernestine Holloway. She had spoken about it impacting low-income individuals in her community. Per a FOIA request that we filed earlier in this month, the fastest growing demographic of permit applications in the state of Connecticut are African American women. 10 years ago, in 2009, only 270 permit applications came from African American women. In 2019, 10 years later, that number tripled. There is no other demographic in the state of Connecticut that is applying for permits at the increased rate of African American women. Do not price people out of their ability to defend themselves if they live in urban communities. They need the access to ammunition in order to have the developed proficiency in firearm handling. To price them out of this is contrary to common sense gun safety. I do want to speak about something else. The sponsor of this bill has stated that Connecticut gun owners must share in the cost of gun violence. Respectfully, gun owners in this state are no less empathetic or human than any other member of the communities in this state. We do not feel any less pain when we hear of incidents of violence of any sort. We share in the same financial liability as every other resident in this state. We are not exempted from the cost of violence of any degree. The shameful pitting of neighbor against neighbor or owner versus non-owner and who owes who what is absolutely, will never be a constructive solution to violence in society, no matter what the tool or measure. Not only will HB 5040 make Connecticut residents less safe, it will also result in significant financial loss, and that's been addressed here already today. I sat with at the workbench with my father since I was 8 years old, reloading ammunition. These sales will leave this state. So not only will this 35% will not be realized by the organizations that are expecting to receive it, the state of Connecticut will not be receiving their 6.35% sales tax. And I can tell you that our group is a very principled group of people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan, for your testimony. Are there any questions from Representative Mashinsky?
Personally, I think the tax rate on this bill is very high, and I also think that the purpose of the programs that the representative wishes to fund is a good one. So the question is, a couple years back we did a bill here to put a fee on car registrations, which pays for the state parks. And people say, well, not everybody goes to state parks, but it's on every car. Is that fair? And I would say yes, because everyone benefits from having the state parks in good condition, so they're safe to visit. So would your organization support any percent, like a 2% or a 1% or any charge on your ammunition, or in principle, do you object to any percentage and you'd rather have it come from general purpose taxes?
We absolutely oppose any percentage of additional cost to ammunition and gun owners, despite how low you may make it.
Come on.
What
Let's just please refrain from doing that, please. Thank you.
What I would like to point out, if you visit the House Democrat website, and on Jillian Gilchrist's page, it does talk about where she suggests, quote, this taxation will prevent people from being able to practice or shoot, and she offers that one solution will be to reduce or exempt the tax on ammunition both bought and used at a gun range. I think that this quote quite clearly shows that the proponent of this bill is woefully out of touch with gun owners in the state of Connecticut. Very few gun ranges in the state of Connecticut sell ammunition. It's wildly out of touch with how people actually secure ammunition and shoot. So she is proposing that they could even exempt the entire tax on ammunition purchased at a range. Then what is the point? What is the point? If you are saying that the ammunition that's going to be used at a range could be exempted, then what is the point? We only have a handful of ranges in the state of Connecticut where people can even buy ammunition. That is just woefully out of touch with how these sales actually happen.
Okay, well, follow-up question is, do you like the idea of having safety programs that would help prevent gun violence in the state? Perhaps if they were funded a different way.
So there are a number of safety programs, such as Faster Saves Lives, Safe Kids Foundation. There are tons of programs out there that are doing something like Project Child Safe, and CCDL is a regular contributor to causes like Project Child Safe. What is really terrifying is I reached out to DESPP on 2/13/2020, and I inquired of the Department of Safety. In 2017, only 2 years ago, only 52 schools in the state of Connecticut had actually filed their school safety program as required by SB 1160 following the Sandy Hook incident. So 2 years ago, only 52 schools in our entire state actually met the requirement of the law for school safety. I reached out earlier this month to say, where are we 2 years later? And I have not received a response back. This is not encouraging. So if you're looking for actual responsible solutions to safety, let's start holding people accountable to the laws that are already on the books and not further penalizing law-abiding gun owners who, by the way, are already background checked and permitted before they can even buy ammunition in this state. Somebody off the street cannot buy ammunition in this state. You must already have a permit to do so, which means you've been fingerprinted and background checked. We are not the criminals.
I get that. I realize that, and I respect that. I also realize that the mothers have an issue when they say we need to further reduce violence. I believe that that's accurate, and the more we can do, the less fatalities we'll have. And maybe the way to do it is to fund it in a different manner. That's what I was trying to get from you is, if we separate the two things, if it's not on you, do you think the idea of more public safety training is a good one?
With all due respect, it is on me. I'm a single mother of a 6-year-old child that goes to school 7 miles from Sandy Hook Elementary School. It is on me. So the price that I have paid for armored panels in her backpack and the price that I pay to go to the range and be proficient, that price is on me. Just because I take a different position on how I'm going to be responsible for my child's safety does not mean that I should be obligated to fund this evidence-based group that we have not seen the evidence. You're asking people to pay for something where we do not see a qualitative, quantitative dollar amount that these groups are worth. And you're asking us to fund something.
If the fund, let me try again. If the bill was changed and the fee wasn't on your people, your sportsmen, do you think the idea of having more public safety training has merit?
I think that absolutely. I think that there is absolute merit in gun safety training. However, I think that the way that we feel about how that's accomplished versus the way the representative, who quite respectfully is not a gun owner or shooter or doesn't seem to have much experience with firearms, differs tremendously. So no, I don't support what I would call to be political propaganda, in that this is an agenda. If you look at the groups that are being funded, nobody's come to CCDL and said, well, gosh, you do an awful lot with helping out with women on target or children on target and teaching safe firearm handling skills. So if it's only going to a certain group of organizations, then I would say that there is a political agenda to this, and I would not support funding anything, especially that falls solely on the shoulders of law-abiding gun owners.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Claris Detria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming and testifying today. Excuse me. I have the same issue as you do. If you heard my testimony earlier, I am opposed to this bill, and I think, and I think with your previous testimony, speaking to the representative behind me, we need education, as in everything. Education is very important, and whatever group or what area that comes from, I think that's very important. I feel, as I'm sure you feel the same way, it doesn't need to ride on the backs of Connecticut gun owners. It's not your responsibility to fund programs. Sure. That's just, for that matter, like I had said earlier, then we should be 35% taxing hammers and golf clubs or knives or whatever people use to murder someone. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. But I appreciate your testimony here and continue the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additional, Representative Candelora?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony. You had referenced schools being out of compliance. What was that reference to? The safety plans, or?
So, Senate Bill 1160, which we generally call it SB 1160. I realize that it has a different nomenclature here in the legislature. So SB 1160 had three components to that bill. The first part of the bill, which we're all very well aware of, were the restrictions on gun rights in this state, whether it was restrictions on magazine capacities and the types of firearms that we're allowed to own. The other piece to that was mental health funding. It has not been funded, folks. The mental health component of that bill is unfunded. This was a three-legged piece of legislation. And the third part was school security. As of 2017, only 52 schools in our entire state had actually filed their safety plan. And that was only 25% of schools in the state of Connecticut. So here we are, it's 2 years later, and I sent another request asking for an updated number, and that number has not been provided. So it is incredibly concerning to gun owners when especially tremendous legislation like SB 1160 passes through this building and only gun owners are held responsible to their piece of it. So what is happening that there is no oversight to these other two pieces to make residents of the state of Connecticut safer? What keeps happening is more and more legislation comes through this building, but the enforcement of what the rules are already on the books is not happening. So yes, people in this room are fired up. Enough is enough.
I appreciate that, because I think it's an important point for us to remember too. Seems like we have like a 1-year cycle, and there are policies that get implemented, good or bad, that we need to follow up and make sure that they're achieving the goals. So thank you for that information.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.